Welcome back to the channel, Brad Takes Flight, where I'm taking you along with me as I go from 0 hours all the way through my instructor certificates in aviation. If you're new to the channel, I'm Brad, former athletics coach, educator, and real estate agent turned full-time pilot. My goal is to go from 0 hours all the way up through instructor and eventually become a commercial and pilot myself. So whether you're working on your aviation license or you're just curious on what that process is like, you're in the right place. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel so that way you won't miss any part of this exciting adventure. This week is all about commercial maneuvers. So things like steep turns, eights around a pylon, lazy eights, different types of stalls, and the list goes on and on. I'll be covering each one of these as we continue to get further into the week. As today I'm supposed to be having a flight. It's 8 a.m. currently. Should be having my flight around 8:30, but I highly doubt that's getting off. If you can't really tell, pretty rainy and low ceilings today. Really need VFR conditions in order to be able to do any of these maneuvers. At the end of last week, I wrapped up some pattern work, so I've already done a bunch of my takeoff and landings that I needed to do for these next couple of lessons, so was really hoping to get up today. We'll see if there's any availability towards the afternoon. Maybe I can adjust some of my schedule around and still be able to get up later today, but otherwise it's probably just going to be ground lessons today. When I wrapped up my ground lessons last week, I was looking at ground lesson 8, which is basically us just running through all of the ACS. At a Part 141 school, you do have a required syllabus that you're going to have to run through. At Part 61 schools, you kind of get to do what it is you want when you want. And here at Blue Line, it's a 141, so we have set structures that we need to be able to follow in order to make sure that we get everything covered that the FAA wants us to. So when I left off on that last ground lesson, I was in weather. Weather is a huge section. Probably take at least today to get through most of weather again. May end up going through one of the next tasks or two, may include some cross-country planning, that type of stuff. And since I've already wrapped up the cross-country portion of my exam, I think that section should be pretty easy, and weather should be pretty easy as well. There's always a little bit here and there that can trip you up as you continue to deep dive into it. There's always room for growth. So we'll see where I'm at today, and I'll let you know how everything goes as soon as I wrap it up. Really great day worth of ground today. Got 4.5 hours in. Wasn't able to get our flight off just because things really didn't improve here until probably about 11 o'clock, and that was right at the end of our flight. And by the time you get done pre-flighting and you get yourself ready, you're not going to really get anything done up there. So no point in wasting our time trying to get up. Really focused in on weather today, along with aerodynamics, national airspace system. Those were the big topics. Sounds really easy to kind of, question yourself on those, but it takes a lot of time to actually get through every aspect of those. Really important to take time to go back to your basics, even as you're going through the commercial steps. You really want to make sure that you understand your basics again of, lift, drag, thrust, weight, just the basics that you kind of started off with. Going back, making sure that you now understand the details around those. I know some weak points for me have always been center of gravity, like the difference between aft and forward CGs, what that does to your plane as far as like performance and stall speeds and recoveries from stalls. Also forces around our plane, so P factor and torque and corkscrew and gyroscopic precession, and how those all affect and give us turning tendencies are another point that I constantly have to kind of go through and remind myself of. And those are just some quick examples. Higher level stuff on METARs, as far as just, there's always the basics, but then understanding deeper into the remarks section. Same with your TAFs, weather that you can get inside of the aircraft when you have FSB, whether you can expect to get from flight services and things that they can help you when you're calling them up when you're in air. Different places that you can actually get the weather, what's acceptable, what's not. All these different things kind of play into it and are things that you need to constantly remind yourself of and go back through and dig through. And there's always regulations that go into them. So the other place that I'm really going to focus in on tonight as I go through and study is my regs and my numbers. So you don't always have to know all the information, but you need to know where to get that information. So whether it's, the pilot's handbook of aeronautical knowledge or the PHAC, the flying, I think the airplane flying handbook, or the FAR aim and what regulation inside of the FAR aim you need to go to. If you know where that information is, it'll make your check ride a lot easier, as well as just practically understanding where to go and find this stuff on your own. Really good to understand that, as well as it is to know the information as well. Homework tonight, I am going to, like I said, work on my regs, but I also have a cross country that I need to plan, as tomorrow I'm going to sit down with our academy lead for commercial and go through basically a stage check of cross country. So he's given me a plan. We're going to go from Johnston up to the DC area. So we won't be inside of the SFRA, but just outside of the SFRA. However, there are a lot of considerations in that area that I need to take into account. Luckily, I just went through and did my DC SFRA training. I already have a little bit of background knowledge, as well as some other tools that I can kind of look at to help me planning. Basically, the destination is going to be the big piece that I need to really focus on. There's not much airspace or anything like that. That's kind of tricky between here and there. However, it is a VFR flight, so taking in altitude considerations and all those things for that will be my big homework for tonight, as I've got that flight in the afternoon, and I've got some more of my ground lesson 8, which we're just continuing to go through the ACS and the different ground portions that I will be quizzed on there, as well as the topics that I missed on my written knowledge test, going back through those as well, making sure that I've brushed up on those, because those will definitely be covered whenever it's time for me to actually do my practical test or my check ride. Hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. If you are, go ahead, drop me that like or leave me a comment. Let me know some things that you'd like to see me cover, or where you're at. If you've got any questions in your own journey, I'd love to be able to help you along the way. Catch up with you guys tomorrow. It's Tuesday at Blue Line Aviation, getting ready to go in for a continuation of my ground lesson 8. When I wrap up my ground lesson, then I'll go over with our academy lead to do my stage 1 check. So that'll be flight 14 in stage 1. In that one, we will go through some of the cross-country planning that I have set up. He asked me to set up a flight plan from here to 2 Whiskey 6, which is just outside of the SFRA in DC. So there'll be several different things I'm sure he's gonna have ready for me. I've already looked at some of the approach plates. There's some very interesting things that are going on in that area. I'll let you know exactly how the ground portion of that goes. Then we'll get up and we'll do a little bit of flying. I've got a couple of points. It looks like absolutely gorgeous weather today. I think we're gonna fly the first few points on my cross country plan that we create for 2 Whiskey 6, and then we'll get out and do some other things, ATC comms, some of those type of things. Let you know exactly what that all entails as soon as I wrap it up. Just completed the flight today, got through both my ground lesson as well as the stage check eval. Went really well on both parts. was able to get through another section of the ACS, as well as went through a few more of my codes for my test, and then got to go into the ground with the academy lead. I feel like every time that I do one of these stage checks with an academy lead, you kind of see why they're the academy lead. They're just always super knowledgeable. You feel like you learn a lot in that flight, even though it's an evaluation flight. Like, yes and no. It's not really a check ride, so you can be taught in a check ride or a practical test. You're obviously not being taught, you're just being evaluated. And so the DPE can like clarify things, but they can't really give you the answers or, you know, teach you how to do a maneuver or help you with a setup or any of that kind of stuff. Where in the eval they can, you can go through it a few more times, right, if you need to. Today, my power off stall was a little bit off and kind of helped me correcting that. I definitely had to do more pilotage than I kind of remembered needing to be able to do, but felt pretty comfortable with it. I think I did okay. Had two good landings, two landings that were a little long, and a lot of them, like the setup was pretty good with them, but it was just kind of my round out holding off and kind of that last minute energy management that I really needed to kind of work on a little bit. And one of them was my power off 180 and just needed to slip that. Just came down a little steep. Even though I was going at a slower speed, my steep angle just really carried that energy into ground effect and just need to be able to work on that a little bit. So good things overall today. Tomorrow I do have two flights, one with a new instructor who I'm excited to work with. She was actually finishing up when I first started, so it's really cool to kind of see that come full circle, and now to have an opportunity to work with her. I'm super excited about her. I like her a lot. She's a very nice person, and can't wait to get up with her. So two flights tomorrow, plus right now I'm scheduled for a late night ground. We'll see if that sticks around, and then I'll be sure to update you tomorrow morning. It is Wednesday morning, just a little before 9:30, and my first flight today is going to be at 10:15. It is a complete maneuvering flight that includes takeoff and landings. I think there's a no flap landing. I think each one of our maneuvering flights has a little difference on the landings that it would like you to see. There's really just three standard kind of takeoffs that you'll do. So your short field, your normal, and your soft field. And then when it comes to landings, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of do approaches, power off 180s, no flap landings, things like that, even slips. So, and those can all finish with either a soft or normal or short field kind of approach on them. So it just kind of depends on what it is. So landings can have a lot more nuance than maybe your takeoffs do. And in this one today, I will have a few of those that are attached to it. This afternoon, I'm going up with a different instructor. Always good to do that. However, that one won't really have any takeoff and landings, as it will be a wrap up from what I did on Saturday last week. It's just going to be basically a double maneuvers flight. So I'll do steep turns twice. I'll do Chandelles twice. I'll do each one of those maneuvers twice to kind of complete that lesson today. Really excited to get to it. Two flight days are always a test of endurance and focus. Let's see how we do. Today was a bit of a struggle to start. My first flight, all the maneuvers went pretty well. However, I got in one power off 180 that was a no flap landing actually, and kind of hit my mark there. But the rest of my power off for 180s were really difficult today. Maneuvers went okay, still working on my lazy 8. So the way that you set up there, that maneuver, there's a couple of points that you have to pick, and you need to have your plane in certain positions, and just kind of making sure that my plane is set up that way. Just need to work on those a little bit more, as well as we have a climbing kind of 180 turn that we do called a Chandelle, really just holding that in for my pitch, just having that up even when I get a little bit slower, a little bit longer, it's going to be helpful as well. My very last landing of the day was my most successful landing. Got into Johnston, got to the 1,000 markers that are the two big bars that are our touchdown zone and points, and you pull idle and then you try and make the runway and hit that point the best that you can. It really shows a good use of energy management, as well as your flaps and descent and things like that. I had been struggling with that all day, and really just, I mean, it was textbook for me, and really excited that that's kind of the way that I'm leaving things. Tomorrow is July 4th. Happy 4th to everybody. I hope you really enjoyed your time with your friends and family. And remember that, you know, freedom is not free. So thank any military service members that are in your family or friends. They really deserve that thanks, especially on days like tomorrow. Coming back for 2 more flights on Friday, and then I've got 1 scheduled right now for Saturday. I'm looking to try and add 1 more for either Saturday or Sunday. We'll see how that works out. Obviously, I'll let you know as we keep moving along. Super excited about this landing. If you're excited about the video and the content that you're seeing right now, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on Friday. It is the Friday after 4th of July here at Blue Line, and I had 2 flights today. One of them was really early morning, and I got up here just a touch late, so I'm gonna just recap them. Sorry, there's no kind of preview to let you know what to expect, but we can jump right into exactly what happened. So both of these flights were basically maneuvering flights. Got up, did my power on, power off, accelerated stalls, as well as Chandelles, steep turns, lazy 8s on a pylon, emergency descents, and steep spirals as well. Got in a bunch of landings, probably a dozen between the 2 different flights. Actually cut the last one just a touch short, just because it was so hot and the pattern was starting to fill up here at Johnston, and I was starting to drag after going back to back on my flights, that it just didn't feel like I was going to get a lot accomplished doing, you know, 1 or 2 more landings. So just kind of called it a day at that point. It's always nice to be able to verbalize those things. Don't ever think that you have to push yourself to unhealthy point or beyond those fatigues. That's part of your aeronautical decision making, and it's where a lot of pilots make mistakes, is when they feel like they have to do things, and either they or their equipment or their weather isn't really up for that task for that day. Tomorrow I have 2 flights on the books. Both of those should be more of the same, I think, as far as the maneuvering and the landings are concerned. I hope you guys enjoyed the 4th of July as much as I did, and I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow. Saturday, 11 o'clock at Blue Line. I have 2 flights scheduled today. Not sure if both of them will get off or not, but I think that my first one that is at noon should be no problem. Biggest issue right now is we have some thunderstorms moving in, and that's gonna creep in not just for today, but throughout next week. Today is gonna be very similar as to my last 2 flights, as everything is gonna be based on maneuvers, doing my stall work, as well as the 8s on pylon, lazy 8s, and Chandelles. Along with that, we will probably get in some takeoff and landing work as well. We'll just see how things go. I may try to see if I can't do all of my maneuvers today for both this lesson and the next lesson, because it'll be much easier to get that work in than it will be to do takeoff and landings that need lower ceilings. And with the bad weather that's pushing in, we'll just see how all that kind of works out and what I can line up. I'll be sure to let you know during our debrief. Just got done with the last flight, had to cut it a little bit short. We were just going to go ahead and redo the entire thing, so we incompleted the lesson. There's a storm that was rolling in. Hopefully you were able to see that. We kind of decided to go ahead and come back in instead of trying to stay out there and finish things up. Looks like it should be here in the next few minutes, but with the next ride that we have inside of the aircraft, it's on a delayed system, so you can't really trust exactly what it's saying for a current kind of observational output. So best to err on the side of caution. So we came on back in. It was a really good flight as far as the maneuvers that I did. I think my lazy eights are getting much better now, and my stall work is getting better as well. Still have a little bit of work to do on some of my landings. However, my power off 180s are really coming around, and I'm really happy with the progression that I'm making there. So this week I had 7 flights totaling 14 hours. There was no special flights, no instrument, no additional cross countries. Everything was basically maneuvering. So I only got 14 hours of flight time as well as 14 hours of PIC. That brings my total time up to 134.4 hours. I also have 81.9 hours of PIC and 47.4 hours of cross-country time. I have 10.8 hours at night and 43.7 hours of instrument time. 5.3 of those are actual instrument hours, which are really golden hours because you don't really get a lot of those. So next week I've got 3 flights plus my check ride. So 4 flights in total that I've got to get prepared for. Really excited about where I'm at right now. 3 more flights to complete. I'm going to finish my last flight, my 2.8, as well as do a mock check ride, which is my 2-9. And then I also have an end of course check ride, which is 2-10. Through those 3 flights, I need to pick up another 5.5 hours, and then I'll be ready for my check ride that hopefully I'll be able to do on Thursday of next week. I'm really excited with the way that commercial is playing out right now. I think I have an opportunity to wrap everything up, get everything complete by Thursday, and then there is a job fair on Friday that you're not going to want to miss. If you haven't already, you can subscribe right here. Please like this video. You can also check out the entire playlist right here, as well as the next video that you're not going to want to miss right here as well. Appreciate you guys watching. And as always, keep the grass off your wingtips.